Hey guys, it's Dave. Today is going to be a little bit different for me. We're going to talk about variegation, and that is not something that comes up too often on Sober Plant Guy. About a month and a half into my YouTube career, I did a video on Ditch the Variegation Train. It was kind of a double feature there. It was one just to show some plants that I really loved and to express my, I don't know, affection towards just plain old green plants, and kind of like, that's fine. It's okay to just like green plants. I assumed that nobody would watch that, and it was really popular. I mean, I had very few subscribers a month and a half into the channel, as you can imagine, and it got a lot of views. The other side of that was the variegation train. The train was the runaway pricing on all of the new variegated plants coming out. And you know, if you like green plants, even through COVID and lockdown and all of that, you've had the distinct advantage because they aren't flashy. They don't show great on camera. And if you're trying to get people pumped up about something, it's going to be that new variegated whatever. Even if it's a plant you already have 10 of, it seems like the selling point was, yeah, but there's this new variegated version of that. Well, I never jumped aboard that train. There are some variegated plants that I love, and some really unique mutations, some really beautiful ones, whether it be in nature or more likely humankind has contributed to that mutation. I'm going to show you a few of those, and then I'm going to show you the buyer beware version of it, one of the most beautiful plants in my collection, variegated or reverted. Stick with me. All right, this is me working up to the heavy one I'm going to bring over next, but this is an epiprimnum, codename Kuangs Flame. And these are some fairly green leaves here. And these are not. Now, I love green and yellow variegation. I know some people think it is sickly looking, like, come on, does that plant look like it's dying to you? Maybe if people think that's a sickly looking plant, they need to have their eyes checked. That is a gorgeous plant. Nothing you can say to change my mind on that. But I'll tell you what looks sickly to me. Any velvet leaf plant that has variegation, they all look like they're dying. They look sick. I've seen them in person. I've seen the variegated micans in person. I know what a dying micans looks like because I've lost a huge one this year, and that's exactly what it looks like. What I love about this epiprimnum is that you can get either a leaf that has very little variegation, perhaps even none, and the first time that happened to me, I just let it go. I didn't try to cut it back. It was on my last, these are cuttings off of my last ever moss pole. Never again, never ever again. And the next leaves would come out with beautiful variegation. So this would follow something like this. And that was the pattern all the way. Very few truly green leaves, or you know, ones with just a little bit of variegation. But when it was a little bit attenuated, it would be nothing for this particular plant to come back with a stunning leaf like that. Okay, we'll do one more light one. This is my inner variegated Carnosa. This one was sold under the trade name Exotica, and very beautiful plant, holds really steady variegation. It will throw off these green leaves, which when I tell you that I love this, I think I might love them more than this plant. Is that crazy? Hang on a second. I'm building this plant from little cuttings I take off of that plant. I get a green vine, and I just absolutely adore this. I could have done more this summer to fill this one out. I didn't. I think this spring I will make an attempt to get this to be a fuller plant, because I now have some places to hang plants, and that's really beautiful. That is really, really beautiful. So again, you buy the plant for that. You're going to get a few of these. You can leave it, you can chop it, you can do what you want. I like them both. This, of course, was a very inexpensive plant. We'll work up to the expensive one. Philodendron Brazil is a whole different story. This is one I never try to trim back. Well, I almost walked right into the camera. I just let her do what she wants to do. This is easily a plant that could be, you know, my one and only. It is so beautiful. It's where I would probably start if I were going to have to rebuild a collection from scratch. It gets half moons, it gets plain old deep green, it gets plain lime, and of course it gets plenty of the variegated leaves as well. Always interesting, always a pleasure to look at. It weighs about 30 pounds. I'm gonna go put it down. I have more variegated plants, but I think that's a good representation of plants that are very beautiful with that mutation, that you wouldn't lose sleep if it started reverting, if you wanted to snip off a vine or just let it go. However, this is the buyer beware part of the video. When the Carnosa Argentia Princess was introduced to the market, these were going for $1,000 a node, you may remember. For crappy ones that almost had no variegation, you could get them for the low discount price of $800 for a node. This is one that you're probably going to be disappointed if it reverts, even if you're paying today's prices. They're less expensive, but it's still an expensive plant. Now, I have mentioned this plant a couple of times on my channel. It was before I owned one. My thought when these came out on the market as so expensive was, first and foremost, I could not afford this plant. I had no appreciation for how beautiful it is because I didn't own one, and I didn't own one until this last summer. When so quickly those two were being sold shoulder to shoulder, that told me that there is a very high chance that this is going to be a plant that reverts. I grew mine up a little bit, took a cutting, so I have in a prop box somewhere. I don't know which one it's in. On Patreon, I tried to find it to show them yesterday, and I don't know where it is. I have it, it's somewhere. So I took a cut between two beautiful variegated parts of the plant, and it immediately reverted into this also spectacularly gorgeous Nova Ghost. Now I am equally pleased with this plant, but having seen this in person with this iridescence that I really can't capture, I'm smitten. This is an absolutely world-class, elite form of variegation if I can get it to stay. Now, I am not going to chase this down the rabbit hole and be one of those people who cuts and cuts and cuts and cuts trying to get back to variegation. You know, I may well, when this Nova Ghost grows out, take that because I want to grow that as a plant. That is a really, really pretty plant. So, I mean, this is one I would grow for the leaves. It's a Carnosa. It's years away from blooming. I don't even care. I don't need a Carnosa bloom necessarily out of this plant. I have many blooming plants, many blooming Hoya. That's fine. But for leaves alone, absolutely, I want both of these. So there's the buyer beware. You know, when that new variegation comes out on the market, try to Google like a mature plant after a while. I mean, if you can just pump the brakes and not buy it right away, give it a year, see what people have done with it in a year. A year is plenty of time for someone who has a decent environment for that plant to grow up into a nice specimen. See what they look like. I Googled this, I found a couple of nice size ones, nothing huge and not many of them. Most of them are some version of a node or two or three of this. And the ones that are grown up and fairly mature are beautiful. I mean, they're gorgeous. But at this point in this plant's life, I would expect to see more of them, if that makes sense, you know. But I haven't. So it's your money. Spend it as you will, of course, but be prepared for the fact that you are buying a plant that potentially or even probably will revert. So what are you willing to do to try to regain that variegation, if anything? How disappointed are you going to be if you spend a bunch of money and you end up with the leftovers of the plant? I enjoy the plant for what it is. As somebody just recently said to me in a chat group, I agree with that. Enjoy it for what it is. But if you spent hundreds of dollars for this and you get this, you may not feel the same way. Anyway, short one today. I hope you're having a good one. Come see me again in the next one real soon, okay? Bye-bye.